is Alexander Duvel, and I am the managing guy around here at Andy's Music here on 2300 West, Belmont in Chicago. We're sitting here in part of our 4,500 square feet where we have, gosh, probably one of the most interesting collections for sale of musical instruments in the Midwest, probably the country. This is a Gayaki style sitar from India. But it was made by a friend of mine. His name's Tony Karasek. Karasek Sound is his little badge. He's one of the few sitar makers who basically is from the West originally and went to India after many, many years as a sitar player and repairman and perfecter in many ways, went to India to set up shop and create a nice set of instruments, all different styles of sitars. This happens to be what's known more as Gayaki style sitar. It tends to not have a big upper gourd that most people associate with the Ravi Shankar, more what we call cottage sitars. And I have this one tuned a little high in D, because I tend to play in D, and this sitar tends to pretty much really speaks really well in the higher tuning. Tony does things vary from a perfectionistic sort of Western ideal of how to create instruments. India is a very, very strange place to do business. Even decent sitars that are made in India, sort of brand new for sort of the consumer market, there's sort of like a shop, like a sort of a cottage industry sort of thing that happens where, one guy's making the frets and another guy is making the bridges, and like sort of, it's kind of like a hodgepodge of artisan work that goes into them. And sometimes, the corners get cut and the lacquer isn't so good, or, one thing or another is just not quite perfect. Tony really worked on, as a player of the instrument for many years, what is the really good way to do this? The frets should be really thick, because they'll last longer and they're more stable. He even cuts them a certain way so that they don't, snag the strings or break the strings that hold them to the neck. There's all sorts of little things that he did. Put little bridges here. This is something they do in India, but these are a special little design of tarb string nut. Basically, instead of having basically what they still use are fish vertebrae with the holes through them, and then they sand them down such that they'll fit into the neck, and then this tarb string can fit out them. Tony just used bone and made a slash through them, which you think, gosh, it's not that big a deal, but I've never seen an Indian maker do that. And it makes it much more stable, and that is not going to break down like some of the fish vertebrae are, because unfortunately that's just how they are, and you end up having to replace them more often, and it's kind of a hard thing to do. This is something that a lot of Indians are getting also hip to, is putting a second bridge on each tarb string, again to give it more freedom of resonance, so that the tarb strings have a longer sustain and a more powerful response to when you play them. So that's sort of the magic of the sound of the sitar, is you're trying to get that sort of that extra sound. That didn't do so good. There we go. Like that sort of thing. And the only way you do that is having the strings be all in tune. Otherwise, Tony's just a perfectionist. He cuts his pegs very, very, very cleanly. Always, always, always just a lot of little perfections, if you will. And he got very good at doing jawari, which is the work that you do on the bridge, such that it fades away from the string. The bone surface of the bridge fades away from the string in such a way that you get a nice warm, buzzing quality. Gaki sitars tend to have a more closed sound, whereas the more, you know, Ravi Shankar cottage style sitars will have a much more growl, 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 you know, sort of a pitch and texture to them.